Hey, Post Row Jen, it's Kristan Hawkins. Welcome to this new episode of the Explicitly Pro-Life podcast.
The pro-life movement as a whole is striving every day to ensure that no woman in an unexpected pregnancy stands alone.
On August 28th, church leaders around the U.S. are gathering to learn how to support pregnant women in their communities. And here's why. Since Roe v. Wade, women in our country have been lied to. Over 73% of Americans don't know where to find nonviolent pregnancy resources in their own communities, while abortion continues to be promoted and made easily accessible. As we step into a post-Roe America, Christians must be at the forefront of changing this reality and bringing life-affirming resources to pregnant women and their unborn babies. This is where churches can step in. More than half of abortion-seeking women identify as Christian or Catholic and often look to the church for help and guidance. Church leaders must be equipped to bring resources and empowering conversations to the pregnant, new moms, and their communities. Are you ready? Don't miss the nationwide event, Standing With Her Sunday on August 28th, and learn how you can support the most vulnerable in your community, so no woman stands alone.
Today, I'm with my good friend, Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA. You've probably heard Charlie Kirk at some point in the country, on TV, on social media. They are a mega conservative organization and powerhouse within our movement. They have more than 250,000 student members, more than 400 full-time and part-time staff, presence on over 2,000 campuses. Charlie has a podcast, The Charlie Kirk Show, which ranks among the top 10 news shows on Apple Podcast charts. He's also the host of the new nationally syndicated daily radio show by the same name that's broadcasted on Salem Radio Network Live, 12 to 3 p.m. every single day. Today, we're talking about abortion, surprise, but how abortion is bad for the economy and having children is actually good for it. So Charlie, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you. I'm a big fan of yours, and you have been so incredibly impactful, and God bless you. So honored to be here.
Well, the admiration is mutual. I'm so excited for what you're doing at Turning Point. We get to interact with Turning Point chapters and leaders all across the country at Students for Life. And it's so great to have more allies and friends on campuses. And it's so great to see you speaking out on Twitter and social media about this important issue. Okay, so no more flattery. Let's get into it. We have hard things to discuss. I know you're kind of an econ nerd, so maybe let's own it. In the wake of the Dobbs decision, which, has reversed Roe, sent the decision of abortion back to states, a lot of talking heads in mainstream media are claiming that banning abortion will harm the economy. In fact, right before the decision was handed down, Secretary of the Treasury Janet Yellen even claimed and said that abortion was good for the economy. This is a racist myth, to be honest with you, and classist belief. But I want to get into some of the weeds on this to help folks who are tuning in today. How do they have formative conversations with actual facts when talking about this, besides saying, wow, Janet Yellen is a big racist. So let me read for you her statement, and I want to get your reaction to it. She said, quote, "I believe that eliminating the right of women to make decisions about when and wherever to have children would have very damaging effects on the economy, would just set women back decades. Roe v. Wade and access to reproductive health care, including abortion, helped lead to increased labor force participation, enabled many women to finish school, that increased their earning potential, allowed women to plan and balance their families and careers, and research also shows it had a favorable impact on the well-being and earnings of children." I have many thoughts, but what are yours, Charlie?
Well, yeah, first of all, they're totally wrong. But even if they were right about it being good for the economy, who cares? That's not as important.
That's right.
So life actually matters a lot more than GDP. But they happen to be wrong about it. I just want to be very clear about the moral hierarchy of arguments, that the protection of life, image bearers, the soul of a human being is more important than corporate profits. Okay, let's just putting that aside. The second part, I'm happy to unpack all of the kind of postmodernist feminist garbage in her answer, labor force participation. Oh, you mean it was a good thing that all of a sudden moms are no longer raising their kids? They have to put them in daycare. I think that's actually terrible.
Yeah.
So we could go through that, but let's just look at it from an economics point of view, which is how many people that were massacred post-Roe, 55 to 60 million, could have been the next entrepreneur, innovator, or person that very well could have created a company or business or something that very well could have improved people's lives.
That's right.
That's something that is just on its surface very logical. When you massacre your own, you're by definition diluting the pool of potential people that could do brilliant and amazing things. And the other thing from an economic standpoint is we're always being lectured that we need mass immigration because Americans don't want to do their jobs. Well, maybe if you don't kill 1 million people a year, you don't need to go bring in a bunch of people from the other parts of the world. Maybe that solves a lot of your other structural problems. And then just from another economic standpoint, when you have children, you actually become a better worker. You become a better citizen. It de-radicalizes you. And so what we've done, Chris, I just laugh at Janet Yellen. Women have to be able to decide, okay, I don't believe in, the rape exception when it comes to abortion. I don't. But rape aside and incest aside, 99% of people that have abortions, they made a choice to get into a relationship of sexual intercourse. That was their opportunity to make their choices, Janet Yellen. No one wants to say that out loud. I know you do. But it kind of is trying to create this culture of free sex and maximum corporate profits and pleasure as the ultimate God. And actually, it's a miserable place to live is what ends up happening. And so you have a bunch of 32, 33, 34-year-old women that have cats and they are working for Goldman Sachs and they're deeply unhappy.
They are. No.
And that's bad for everybody.
Yeah. No, I remember Phyllis Schlafly was one of my mentors, and she had debated an author of a book years and years ago before I got involved in the pro-life movement. And it was this whole question of, it was motherhood deterred. And, saying that, telling women that they've got to stop, having children. They have to limit how many children they have in order to succeed in their career. It's actually, I would say, an anti-feminist argument that we're making to women that this is what KCV Planned Parenthood literally said, that women needed the quote unquote right to abortion or to succeed, which I think is an anti-feminist argument. This is 2022.
So condescending too.
It is.
And it's also against nature. And no one wants to say this out loud. You do, but we win when we actually make these arguments. That deep down, women actually want to have babies. They do. Mm-hmm. And they don't always say it out loud, but even the ardent feminists, no, actually you have a biological impulse.
Yeah, why are you carrying the cat in a baby carrier if you don't have an impulse to have children?
And if you don't practice the process of passing your genes down, you end up becoming really unhappy, understandably, by the way, because you're like, I have no connection towards the future. I have nothing to fight for. And here's a very important rule for life. There are many people that don't have children and they end up being happy. Okay. But the most unhappy, miserable people happen to be childless. Macron, Merkel, Boris Johnson, Theresa May, Kamala Harris, minorly adopted a child. When you have a child, I personally believe it anchors you to reality, so that you're not the most important person in the world. And so it also makes you less likely to want to make government God and expand, taxes and all these other things that we hate as conservatives. It actually comes down to a fundamental question of, are you having children and are you protecting children? And so what you hear from Janet Yellen, though, and I'm really glad you brought this up, is this corporate view that it's about power. And I think there's a demonic nature to it. I think there's a spiritual component. Okay. But it's way more simple. They don't want to pay for childcare. And a woman who has a baby isn't as loyal of an employee to Netflix.
That's right. No,
it's sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right. This woke corporate CEO crap of after Dobbs of, oh, don't worry, we're a woke corporation. We're going to pay for your abortions. That is a self-interested argument that the corporation's making. Yeah, paying a girl $800 to go across the state border to end the life of her child, rather than supporting her through what might be a hard pregnancy where she might have to take time off work or where she may need to work from home. Yeah.
that might destroy Netflix from putting out another pedophilia series or whatever they're doing nowadays. Like, oh my goodness, you might not respond to our email at 9:00 at night. Look, I'm a free market person. I know you are too, but other things matter more than profits: life, family, virtue, courage, truth, like the connection to the divine. These things. That's why we're conservatives, not libertarians, which is that markets should work to serve people. And so if you have a motive or you have a culture where young people feel as if they have to go put the next job promotion above having children, and these companies instantaneously are like, we'll make it super easy for you to be able to stay miserable and to live in, your box in downtown New York, and you can ride a bike and go to the Hamptons, and like that's your idea of a fulfilled life. And you wonder why we have the most depressed, suicidal, alcohol addicted, and drug addicted and medicated generation in history. So, from a well-being standpoint, Janet Yellen misses something that's so fundamentally important. We are more unhappy than ever. Since we've been recording happiness, we're the least happy. And it is the most sexually free humanity has ever been. Now I put that in air quotes, right? Sexually free, meaning, you could do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it. You want an abortion, you want free contraception, you want to watch online pornography. And it's interesting, Kristan, people want to kill themselves. I wonder why. Maybe it's against nature and how God wants you to live. Maybe this should be a private act for one person that I believe is divinely inspired and divinely created. Maybe it shouldn't be something that is widespread and talked about all the time. Yep. And in fact, there is like, they want to take women back. Like, okay, like, let's just take that argument's face value. First of all, it's not true. It's actually quote unquote progressive to abolish abortion.
That's right.
Because actually it hasn't really happened. But anyway, take women back to actually when they were happier, you mean? When they were mothers first and corporate automatons second? Doesn't sound so terrible.
No, you're so right. And my good friend Camille Pauly, Healing the Culture, she's worked with Father Spitzer about this for years. And Father Spitzer wrote this whole book on the 10 universal principles of happiness and how do human beings find true joy and find true happiness. And it's not about serving self. That never results in happiness. And that's why our culture continues to get wrong. It's serving others and then serving God. Yes, of course. And that's, that's exactly what abortion does. It serves self.
The most miserable people, according to clinical data from psychologists and clinicians, are people that talk about themselves all the time. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that there aren't people that are depressed. That's
why politicians are always miserable.
Yeah, exactly. But the people that are the happiest are actually people with children, and they're married, and they're going to church, and they're restraining their fleshly impulses, by the way, in a variety of different ways. And there's a lot of reasons for this. It's super simple to explain from a neuroscience point of view. But going back to the economics part of it, because I know that's the theme of the podcast. So let's say you want a rich country, okay? Like, oh yeah, it's the most important thing. Like, let's pretend there's some libertarian listening to this. You actually want more children.
That's right.
The species literally is going to go extinct. And Elon Musk, to his credit, Elon's paying people to have abortions through Tesla. Not a fan of that at all, obviously. But he is, to his credit, I think he's trying to populate Mars by himself.
Yes, he is.
He's having like a child every 6 months. But he has said, if we do not have more children, the species will go extinct. Mm-hmm. He deserves credit for saying that because it's so contrarian to the narrative.
No, it really is.1replacement value is 2.1 children for every female. America, we have been actually holding at replacement value, even though Europe's they were down to 1.9, they're down to like 1.6. COVID, the whole COVID pandemic actually tanked our replacement value. So now we are actually below replacement rates in the United States. The African American community in the United States is down to, I think, 1.6 or 1.5. So sad. They will actually, African Americans will go extinct. Like, there won't be African Americans. It's unbelievable. Kanye West, there's a lot of things you say about Kanye West. Kanye West came out very boldly against this, saying this is a massive problem, that there won't be African Americans in a couple of decades. And it's so weird to even have to say that or even think about that. But that's the reality when no one's having children.
That's right. And so the question is, how does a young person think about this? Well, guess what? You can't have it all. So you have to make a series of choices. That's called being an adult. And what Janet Yellen wants to try to push forward is like, oh no, you can have it all. You can work for Google and you can have as much sex as you want.
Live in your parents'
And if you need
basement.
Yeah. And if you need to terminate a couple children along the way, as long as you're happy. And by the way, never do they talk about, and Kristan, you're so good at this. And I'm going to do a poor job of it. Just the damage it does to the woman who has the abortion. Like never do they talk about that, right? The mental, the physical, the spiritual, the guilt, all of that. Never. It's celebrated now. And no, it's subsidized. And so, boy, I mean, praise God for the reversal of Roe. It's amazing. You played such a good role in that. But our work's cut out for us because abortion culture is only going to be better funded from this point forward.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We have an uphill battle right now. We've got 50 states where we've got to make abortion unthinkable and unavailable. And, one of the things that we've found that to me has been so shocking, you actually illuminated this when I was on your show about a year ago, is the lack of awareness that there generally is amongst Christians, amongst conservatives, amongst all Americans about the pregnancy center movement.
Yes.
We knocked on 120,000 doors in 20 neighborhoods surrounding abortion facilities this year. 73% of the neighbors we had conversations with had no idea that nonviolent pregnancy help services were available in their community and actually outnumbered the abortion facilities in our community. And these are free nonprofits that Americans, through their own generosity, are supporting. Only a few states are supporting these pregnancy centers with taxpayer funds. It's absolutely shocking how many people simply do not know. We definitely have our work cut out for us in this.
Yes. And so I say this at every church recently I've spoke at and every conservative group. Everyone applauds Roe being overturned. Great. That's step one. But now we have a moral obligation to make sure that every woman that is in a state where abortion will no longer be conducted is welcomed and is looked after, or else she'll get a text message saying, hey, you got a free flight to Albuquerque and you could go terminate your child, right? And so it's incumbent on us now to create that full culture of life. You're right. Most people don't know about pregnancy crisis centers. Most Christians don't know. Most conservatives certainly don't know. I know of at least 5 friends just in my local area. They're like, Charlie, I think I'm pro-life, but why don't we offer more support? I'm like, you do know there's a lot of pregnancy. They have no idea.
I know.
And
so I think there's some really good pregnancy crisis centers, but I think they all kind of live in their own bubble. They think everyone knows about them.
Yeah.
And they don't. Now, to their defense, though, Google ad services kicks them off all the time. It's a big battle. I get it. I really do. But we as a movement have to do a better job of advertising the genre of pregnancy crisis centers.
That's right.
Right? And as just kind of a thing that exists.
Yeah, we're calling it No Woman Stands Alone. No woman stands alone in a post-Roe America because the pro-life movement has been and continues to stand with her. You all, Turning Point Faith, you're co-hosting our National Standing With Her Sunday on Sunday, August 28th. I don't know if you know about it, Charlie. But
I heard about it.
Oh, great. I mean, the goal is to get churches across the country. We're going to do like a 1-hour simulcast event to give every Christian the tool that they need, whether it's post-abortive healing and support for women, abortion pill reversal, pregnancy resource center, maternity homes, because I know way too many Christians who say, I'm pro-life, or like they're too timid to speak out about abortion because they don't feel like Christians and pro-lifers put their money where their mouth is. And the fact is we do. We need to do more. And I think in the coming weeks and months, I've been on calls already leading up to Roe's reversal and now after about all of the legislation, whether federally or in the states, to be introduced to support pregnant and parenting families and those in crisis and redirecting funds away from these predatory abortion facilities. One of the questions I heard you mention this, and I kind of bring this up in a lot of my speeches, going back to the economics, the Brookings Institute, which is not like a friend of the pro-life movement, as I'm aware, they found that it wasn't abortion that was a key to economic success. They said if you did 3 major things, you were basically guaranteed not to live in poverty. Finish high school, get a full-time job, wait to 21 to get married and have kids. What do you think about these prescriptions? Would you add anything else to this?
Yeah, not committing crimes is good.
Generally,
don't be terrible with money would probably be a 5th, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would go even a step further is you should get married before you have children, right? And look, the abortion industry is directly connected to the pornography industry, and it's directly connected to all this, is that they want to be able to have orgasms without a cost. And they think that's fine. And okay, look, I'm not judgment-free zone. People can make decisions. I have my own convictions, so do you, but don't involve another human being in that. That's where all of a sudden it becomes everybody's problem, right? So you make your decisions, I might disagree with them, whatever, but then all of a sudden another human being gets created. And you're like, no, I have to be able to have, autonomy or superiority over that human being because I'm bigger than them and I'm, more developed than them or I'm outside of the womb, right? The SLED acronym, you've heard it a million times: size, level, development, environment, and degree of dependency. And so from our standpoint as pro-lifers, and we look at this, I think it presents an opportunity to try to create a whole culture of life. And I think we have this opening because there is a generation that's 18 to 25 years old to 30 that's kind of played the game of doing whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. And they are very unhappy. And maybe it's like, hey, maybe you should restrain your impulses. Maybe your flesh shouldn't tell you what to do every single day. These are biblical concepts, obviously, right? But you could, put whatever branding you want on them, but it'll always bring you back to the source. And yeah, look, it comes to, there's other themes to this too. I've said for a while, the kind of virus of subjectivism is going to be the downfall of moral and decent society. I'm not the only one that said that, but it's kind of around a lot of right-wing circles, which is if you believe that everyone has their own truth, then why shouldn't you be able to massacre the child? Now, you can have your own experiences and your own feelings, but there's only one truth. And there are some agreed upon absolute truths. For example, you and I are having a conversation right now. That's not an opinion. No. Now, you might be hating it and I might be enjoying it, right? Those are feelings, right, that we can have. So when we talk about how you design a society and everyone says, well, it's my truth and your truth, what you're playing into is the prerequisite for some of these moral failings that we're living through.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I just did a podcast on this subjectivism, and it's just pervasive. How do we as a movement see success in abolishing abortion, completely making it unthinkable and unavailable, while trying to compete with the fact that people just don't recognize science. People flat out. I was on CNN and I mentioned a study from the University of Chicago. 95% of biologists say life begins at conception. It's egg, sperm, two parts unite, whole, new genetic code comes into existence. Hello, duh, that's a human life. And the anchor, we spent 5 minutes debating the merits of the study. And she was like, oh, that's not right. I'm like, no, you can deny the value. You can say that human is a value and shouldn't be protected. But how can you deny fundamental science? And I think that's right. It's a hard problem for us in the conservative movement when we're trying to argue with logic and science and reason. And you have people who just flat out will deny truth.
And that's their game plan. I believe it's spiritual in its essence, right? We believe the enemy actually gets you to cast doubt on things that are true.
That's right.
That's kind of did that in the garden very well. So if you don't have agreed upon natural law or natural truth, then you live in chaos.
Well, thanks, Charlie, for coming on today. Thanks for providing some truth to everybody here at the Explicitly Pro-Life podcast. Where can folks go to hear their daily dose of Charlie Kirk?
Charlie Kirk Show podcast. They can go to Turning Point USA, tpusa.com, either work. And God bless you. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, Charlie. I hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Explicitly Pro-Life podcast today. I hope you will share this episode. That was a lot of fun talking to my good friend, Charlie. I don't get to see him enough, but he just laid out a lot of good facts. And I think this will be very informative for you in the coming weeks and months as we move forward in our debates.